We continue reading from the book المنهج السوي في شرح أصول طريقة السادة البعلوي, and this book basically focuses on the principles and the foundations of the Ba'alawi tariqah, and currently we're still busy with the first principle, and that is al-ilm, knowledge. So the first principle of the tariqah is al-ilm. A person cannot call himself a seeker to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if he does not acquire knowledge, and he doesn't see the importance of the acquisition of knowledge. So the author, he started the book by speaking about the importance of knowledge and the virtue of the people of knowledge, and the importance of learning, and the virtue, and then he spoke about the virtue of of teaching to others, and the virtue of documenting or writing, compiling or composing or authoring, and then the virtue of teaching one's children and the family, and the dangers of stealing knowledge and not conveying the knowledge, and the importance of striving and sacrificing and traveling for seeking knowledge, and the importance of sitting in the gatherings of the ulama and the salihin, and the etiquette of the ulama in the company of the ulama and the salihin, and the warnings, a stern warning against those who criticize the scholars and the salihin and the ulama, and the condition and the state, and the etiquette of the seeker of knowledge, and the etiquette of the alim, and the etiquette of the student with his teacher. And then he came to some of the books that is important for a person to read, or that is recommended for the person to read. And before that, he mentioned some of the ahkam, the ad'iyah that assists a student of deen in his studies and in his acquisition or journey for acquisition of knowledge. What we'll be speaking about in this fourth chapter is going to be the books that is warned, or that one should be cautious about reading. The books that one should be cautious about reading. And the reason for this caution is not that the books in itself is completely prohibited from reading, but we will speak about some of the context of the inshallah as well. So he says ينبغي للإنسان أن يحترز من مطالعة الكتب التي تشتمل على الأمور الغامضة إيثارا للسلامة وخشية أن يفهمها على غير وجهها فيضل عن سواء السبيل ويهلك مع الهالكين. What is the reason that one should be cautious of these books that he is going to mention? He says that the reason for it is that these books are very vague. In terms of its understanding, the wording that is used is very vague. And out of fear that the person might understand it out of context, he might understand it out of context, he might incorrectly interpret it, and because of his misinterpretation or not understanding the context behind what is mentioned, he may be misguided. فيضل عن سواء السبيل ويهلك مع الهالكين. And after being misguided, it may lead him to be destroyed, to be amongst those who will be destroyed. And then he gives examples. He says مثل مؤلفات الشيخ ابن العربي, the compilations of Shaykh ibn al-Arabi. What is referred to here is not the Shaykh ibn al-Arabi, who is Abu Bakr al-Arabi, the Maliki scholar. What is referred to here by Shaykh Ibn Arabi is Ibn Arabi without the alif and the lam. So you have Ibn al-Arabi. Generally in the book they say Ibn al-Arabi. Then is Al-Qadi Abu Bakr Ibn al-Arabi. Qadi Abu Bakr Ibn al-Arabi lived before the Ibn al-Arabi was the philosopher. And so what they refer to here is the mu'allafat, the compilations, the books of Shaykh Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi was a philosopher, was also an Islamic scholar, and he was a person of tasawwuf. However, the books of Ibn Arabi, when he authored the books, it was never intended that it be authored for anybody just to read. It was intended for the people who have an understanding of a good understanding of Aqidah and a good understanding of Tasawwuf, where they would understand that the kalima, the word when used, لها ظاهر ولها باطن. It has an external, outward meaning, and it has an internal meaning. It has an apparent meaning, and it has a meaning that is used more figuratively. And when Imam Ibn Arabi used his, in fact he himself said about his works, that the person who reads our work, the person who reads our works, وَيُؤَوِّلُهُ عَلَى ظَاهِرِهِ, and he will interpret it apparently or in its outer form, then he would not understand what we have intended. So it is very clear that when Ibn Arabi wrote his works, he wrote it in a manner that it is for the one who has a bit of a deeper understanding in the deen, a person who has appreciation for the different haqa'iq, the realities and the different realms that exist, and the kawn, the existence, and that beyond the mushahad, what is seen, there is the ghaybiyat, the unseen, and many of the terminology that is used could then become problematic if one interprets it literally and figuratively, and therefore he was accused of many things, and eventually which led that he was accused of kufr. And this was only because the people who read his books never had the appreciation for the types of words and the terminologies that he used, and they interpreted in a manner that the author himself never intended it to be interpreted in. Some of our teachers, when they were asked about the works of Ibn Arabi, and so they said, the response was, we read all his works. We read his works, and we found within it nothing against Aqidah. And that the reason for that being is that they have reached a level to be able to understand it in the manner that the author had intended it to be understood in. And this is so why the author of this book, he says, ينبغي أن يحترز, you should be cautious of reading those types of books, referring to the general person, to the layman, that he should not go just and read the books of Ibn Arabi without prior appreciation, without prior foundational reading, or the very least without reading it to a scholar who is well grounded in the works of Ibn Arabi and who would understand the context of his usage of his terminologies. That is Ibn Arabi. So we said the one who is intended here is Ibn Arabi and not Ibn al-Arabi, even though the author mentions Ibn al-Arabi. But generally, if they say Ibn al-Arabi, then it refers to the Maliki scholar who lived in the 5th century. If they refer to Ibn Arabi, then it refers to the philosopher, a Sufi. He was a Maliki as well in his madhab. but he lived in the 6th century. Ibn al-Arabi was very well known. He was a scholar of tafsir, scholar of hadith, scholar of fiqh, a great scholar, and he was a qadi. And he had many works. And for those who obviously have studied the Maliki madhab would know Al-Imam Abu Bakr, Al-Qadi Abu Bakr Ibn al-Arabi very well. But the one is intended here, as you said, is Ibn Arabi. And then he says the two books of Imam Ghazali, Al-Mi'raj wal-Madlun. Imam al-Ghazali, there was a time before he authored in Tasawwuf, he wrote quite a bit in Kalam and philosophy. This is before he authored the likes of Bidayatul Hidayah and Minhajul Abidin and Al-Arba'in and Ihya Ulum al-Din and Al-Maqsad al-Asma. Before he wrote those books, he wrote a lot in philosophy, extensive. And some of those books that he wrote in the early days might also be somewhat a bit tricky for the person to understand, and hence it's not recommended without, again, prior learning or under a guided scholar to read the books of the likes of Al-Mi'raj wal-Madnun of Imam Al-Ghazali. وكذلك مؤلفات الشيخ عبد الكريم الجيلي كما ذكر ذلك سيدنا عبد الله الحداد. And similar to that, the compilations of Shaykh Abdul Karim al-Jili, and he is not Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, but he's a relative of him. ومن مؤلفاته, as this was mentioned by Imam Abdullah bin Ali al-Haddad in Risal Mu'awina. وقال سيدنا الإمام عيدروس بن عمر الحبشي نفع الله به روي عن سيدنا عبد الله العيدروس أنه رأى بيد ولده أبي بكر العدني جزءا من الفتوحات المكية لابن عربي فزجره عن مطالعة ذلك الكتاب. الإمام عيدروس بن عمر الحبشي he narrates and says the سيدنا الإمام أبو بكر العيدروس سلطان الملا, he saw that his son الإمام أبو بكر العدني, he was reading he had in his book, in his hand, a book, one of the volumes of Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah of Ibn Arabi. They told him, don't read in these books. Don't read in these books. ونقل في تثبيت الفؤاد عن سيدنا الإمام عبد الله الحداد رضي الله عنه أنه قال لا ينبغي للطالب أن يبتدئ بمطالعة كتب الشاذلية حتى يطالع أولا غيرها قبلها ويحكمها ككتب الإمام الغزالي ثم يطالع بعد ذلك كتب الشاذلية ليستفيد فإن ابتدأ بها أولا رجع يحتج بالأقدار وبقي كلحم على وضم. الإمام الحداد in his تثبيت says that a person who wants to study the deen should not start studying the deen by reading the books of the Shadhilis, the books of the Shadhiliya. Rather, he should start by reading the books of Imam al-Ghazali first. And once he has read the books of Imam al-Ghazali and he has a proper understanding, then he may proceed to read the books of the Shadhiliya so that he can benefit from it. So that he may benefit. If he wants to benefit from those books, then it is preferred that he reads the books of the Imam al-Ghazali prior to it, in order so that he can understand and appreciate the value and understand and benefit from the books, Kutub al-Shadhiliya. If he, however, starts with it, he says, then it will lead him, because of his lack of understanding of the depth of the works. And Al-Imam al-Ghazali, when authoring his books, he authored it for the Mubtadi'een, for the Mutawassiteen, and those who are at the end. And therefore, a book like Bidayatul Hidayah, it is a beginner's book, but it is continuously read by many of the Habaib. You read all the time. And because the books of Imam al-Ghazali is intended by it that the person who reads it should be able to practice everything upon it. Whoever reads it should be able to practice anything within it, or everything in it. However, if the person wants to understand, because of the Kutub al-Shadhili, they say huwa batiniyun wa Kutub al-Ghazali ظاهري, the books of Imam al-Ghazali has a lot to do with the Zahir, and it could be understood Zahiran, and it would be very, very beneficial. The Kutub of the Shadhiliya, أكثرها باطنية. And they say that the Tariqa of the Sada al-Ba'alawi, ظاهره غزالي وباطنه شاذلي. The external part of the Tariqa of the Sada al-Ba'alawi is Ghazali, and the internal part of the Tariqa is Shadhili, which is the Muraqaba, etc. And the external is the Ghazali, which is al-ilm wal-amal. The khawf, al-wara', al-muraqaba, those, that is the batini aspect. And al-ilm wal-amalu wal-da'wa, that is Ghazali. So the external part of it is Ghazali, the knowledge and the actions, and the internal part of it, of the heart, is Shadhili. So it is important that the person understands the external first before he tries to delve into the internal. And therefore they say that the person should read the books of Imam Ghazali first, ثم يطالع بعد ذلك كتب الشاذلية ليستفيد. And then he should read the books of the Shadhiliya in order for him to complete his benefit within their works. He says, however, if he just reads that books, he says eventually it will يحتج بالأقدار. And then he will start using excuses with the likes of the aqdar, the predestination of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already, what difference is going to make, and as we find many people though. And the consequence of it is وَبَقِيَ كَلَحْمٍ عَلَى وَضَمٍ. And he will eventually become like a piece of meat. Like a piece of meat. This is a description, what's a metaphor. Al-Imam al-Busayri, when he speaks about it, he says, رَاعَتْ قُلُوبَ الْعِدَى أَنْبَاءُ بِعْثَتِهِ كَنَبْأَةٍ أَجْفَلَتْ غُفْلًا مِنَ الْغَنَمِ ما زال يلقاهم في كل معترك حتى حكوا بالقناة لحما على وضم. Speaking about the jihad, the chapter of jihad, he says that the news of the arrival of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a battle, راعت قلوب العداء, the enemies, أي أفزعت راعت أفزعت, it trembled and it placed fear in their hearts when they came to hear that the Prophet ﷺ is going to fight them in a battle. كنبأة أجفلت غفلا من الغنم. It's like the roar of a lion. It's like the consequence or the effect that the roar of a lion has on a herd of sheep that is unaware of it. Sheep is busy grazing, and the lion comes and he roars. What does it do? It disperses, and it instills fear within those sheep. He says, similarly, likewise, the news of the Prophet ﷺ going to fight the enemies in a battle stirred so much fear within their hearts, in the same manner that the roar of a lion stirs fear in the amongst the sheep. So he says, حتى حكوا بالقناة لحما على وضم. ما زال يلقاهم في كل معترك حتى حكوا بالقناة لحما على وضم. That the Prophet ﷺ continued to confront them in every battle until they were like a piece of meat that was chopped on the block of a butcher. You know the butcher block? They chop the meat up. That wooden big block. That is called a wadam. It's called a wadam. So lahm ala wadam is a piece of meat on a butcher's block. Meaning that meat is ready to be sliced and diced. That meat is ready to be sliced and diced. And so they generally use it to mean that meat, if a piece of meat that is on the butcher's block, it is inevitably going to be sliced, right? And that is as an indication or is it a metaphor for yani, your destiny is inevitable. There's no lama farra minhu. You can't run away from it. And others use, and it's also used as a tashbih, as a description or as a metaphor for it will never become ready to eat if it remains on a butcher's block. Meat is not intended to stay on the butcher's block. It's intended to be taken from there and put into the pan or put onto the grill or to be fried, right? So in order for it to become hoe sê mens nou? Like edible. In order for it to become edible, it has to be taken from the butcher's block and put on the grid so you can fry. So you say, so the person who reads the books of the Shadiliya before reading the books of Ghazali, he's not going to have a basis. He doesn't have a basis because now he wants to delve into the deeper things. But again, they say similar to a person who walks into the ocean. He walks, so now he wets his ankles. From his ankles, he goes to his knees. Eventually, if he continues, he will go to a point where he will no longer be able to walk. Consequence of it may be that he may drown. But if he can swim, when he gets to that point where he can no longer walk, then he'll be able to swim. So the books of Imam Shadili requires a swimmer, a person who knows how to dive. And the books of Imam Ghazali teaches the person how to swim and to dive. So when eventually you delve into the deeper books, the likes of the Kutub al-Shadiliyah, then yastafidu minha, you will benefit from it. So he says, وَإِلَّا however, بَقِيَ كَلَحْمٍ عَلَى وَضَمٍ, he will be like a piece of meat on the butcher's block. No benefit. Because why? It just remains there. And there's another tashbih for that. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab used it once. He says, النساء كلحم على وضم. النساء كلحم على وضم. Your homework is to go and see what that means. You know what means nisa? So, لحم على وضم. Your homework is to go and see what is the metaphor, what does this describe, what is it intended. That's what Sayyidina Umar said this. رضي الله تعالى عنه. وقال نفع الله به علمان لا نأمن متفقهة الزمان عليه. Two signs. We are fearful about for those وعلم الخلاف بين the realities of existence. Al-Imam Ibn Arabi was one that wrote quite a bit in it. وعلم الخلاف بين الأئمة. And the signs of the differences amongst the A'imma, the khilaf, the differences between the scholars, the Imams. It's very difficult. وعندنا منها كتب كثيرة لكن لا نظهرها. اليوم الحداث, we have many books, but we don't find us speaking about it. الإمام الحداث, we've read those books. We read the books of Haqa'iq. We've read the books of khilaf, the differences amongst the scholars and the Imma. And the Imma could also refer to the Khulafa al-Rashidun, those who followed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Khalifas. He says, we have all those books. You don't find us making it apparent and speaking about it. Why he mentions this here is because there are some people that make it the quest of their life just to speak about the differences amongst the ulama. This is the objective in life. This is the goal, the muntaha, the end of the knowledge is they just want to speak about differences amongst the scholars and differences amongst the companions and differences amongst the ai and the khilaf. That is muntaha ilmihim. That is not the part of the tariqah of the Sada al-Ba'alawi. They don't delve into the differences. And this reminded me now, last week I was driving with Shaykh Yusuf and we were discussing some of the some of the points that we mentioned last week. And then Yusuf mentioned, and he brought to my attention a very beautiful point. And I think it's important for me to share it to the brothers so that they can understand why did the author of this book, why did he say these are books that are recommended to read? These are books that we wouldn't recommend you to read. These are books that you read at an advanced stage. Don't read it at the beginning stages. Rather read these books first, and then you go to those books. And why he mentioned this? He says, our Shaykh Yusuf, he mentioned that they are people that have walked the path. They are people that have walked the path. And as we can see now, Imam al-Haddad says, we have those books. They are people that walk the path, meaning they've read those books. And they've realized that the best manhaj, the best methodology for you to get maximum benefit of the knowledge that you're going to be reading and not being compromised on your aqidah, on you not to be swayed to the wrong, to remain steadfast on the straight path, to benefit from the knowledge that you're reading and to be able to practice to the best of your ability so that you are able to, in that short life of yours, to draw as close as possible as you can draw to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They gave you the manhaj. So they told you, listen, we've already gone through this. And our advice to you is the cream is this. Read this. Stay away from this. Start here and then go to this. If you stick to this, then you will save yourself lots of trouble and you will save yourself lots of anxiety and stress, and you may save yourself lots of anguish and lots of punishment in the year after. But how many people have we seen? They have no manhaj in reading. And we see it all the time. They have no manhaj in reading. They just they love to read. They love to read, but they've got no manhaj. They just read everything. And the consequence, the end of that is they become proud of their reading. They become proud of their reading. And their reading them leads them, that very reading of theirs, that knowledge, leads them astray. That very knowledge of them leads them astray. Allah Ta'ala says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. Who's his Shaykh here now? Who's his Imam? Who's his follower? Who's his leader? His Hawa. وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ. Allah must guide him. And not ala jahl, not because of his ignorance, because of his knowledge. He has extensive knowledge. But despite his knowledge, he wasn't guided. Despite his knowledge, he's misguided. And that's why this manhajiyah was very, that was a beautiful point I felt. As Shaykh Yusuf mentioned, is that the manhaj that was selected, it cuts the path short for the murid or for the salik. If you want to benefit, you want to read here, do this. If you read these books, you will find no contradictions within the books. You'll find no clashing within the books. So you won't come to a point where you say, read a mas'ala and say, oh, but I didn't just read in another book. This person said so. فَتَكُونُ فِي حِيرَةٍ مِّنْ أَمْرِكَ. And now you are now confused. But this Shaykh said so, and that Shaykh, who's now right? And now you start reading it and you say, oh, they speak so about this Shaykh. And they speak so about that Shaykh. Oh, this Shaykh you can't take from. And that Shaykh, and eventually his reading leads him. Because there's no manhaj. There's no manhajiyah, there's no methodology. There's no tadarruj in his reading. And that's why when they say, again, fi kutubin, these books, that one should be cautious in reading, they don't say don't read it at all. They're saying be cautious that you read certain books before reading others. In the same way we said, a person shouldn't start his tasawwuf by reading the Ihya of Imam al-Ghazali. You start with the Bidayah, and then from there you go to the Arba'in, and then from there you go to the Minhaj al-Abidin, and from there you go to the Ihya in al-Imam. Everything in life is tadarrujan, is gradual. And even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran, as sound as the Quran is, and no single word in the Quran is batil, Allah ta'ala revealed the Quran in stages. وقال الذين كفروا لولا نزل القرآن جملة واحدة لولا نزل عليه القرآن جملة واحدة. And the kuffar said, why didn't Allah just reveal the whole Quran? Quran came down in portions. كَذَلِكَ لِنُثَبِّتَ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. So that Allah Ta'ala may grant your heart may be well grounded, established, firm. Allah reveals the next verses, and then the next, and the next. وَهَكَذَا الْعِلْمِ. Knowledge is like that. You take it in gradual doses, and that will cause the tathbeet, the steadfastness of your heart and its firmness. Illa, there will be no grounding. So in new ideas, he reads a bit here, reads a bit there, takes it from here, takes it from there, and there's no basis, there's no grounding. نعم. فقال رضي الله عنه الإمام الحداد says ينبغي للإنسان ألا يتعمق في مطالعة الكتب التي فيها ذكر ما وقع لسيدنا علي من الحروب كالجمل وصفين وغير ذلك، لأنها توغل الصدور، ولا بد ما يمر عليه القليل منها في شيء من الكتب، وإن بلي العالم بذلك واحتاج إلى النظر في شيء مما ذكر فليتوسط ولا يمعن. He says that one should also be cautious when the person reads. Sometimes, you are tempted to read. Sometimes you hear a lecture, and this person he spoke about the a matter of existence. One of the questions of they call al-as'ila al-wujudiyya, questions of existence. And this person, the scholar, he spoke so well and he brought it over so well that you are now inspired. And he mentioned, while speaking, he mentioned some references. So you now were inspired by this and you feel, now I want to read this. So now what you do is you go to his references. But if you're going to start reading and you start reading the books of Imam al-Razi, for example, you start reading Imam al-Razi's works in Aqidah. You start, for example, by al-Jurjani's Mawaqif, the commentary on Mawaqif, for example. Can I be confused? Can you be confused? It's going to put the person in a hayra, because what they're going to be speaking about are things that the brain is not ready to absorb, not ready to receive. It's not willing to accept yet. So, what do you do? What do you do? If you want to, he says, read, but if you need to read, but only enough for you to be able to understand the concept. Don't delve into the depth, of these masail, the intricate of these masail, especially aqidah. Similar what happened in the time of the Khilafah, Sayyidina Uthman and Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhum. And after that, there was it was a very difficult time. It was a very challenging time within the life of the Sahaba. And I generally say that some people would say that we're living in a very difficult time with the Ummah. And if one reads the seerah, if one reads the tariq, it almost gives you the impression that what we're living is in a very easy time in comparison to what they're living in. Now our enemy is clear. We know who our enemy is. In those days, the enemies were at time from the core of the Muslims. Look at the time of Rasulullah and the Munafiqeen. Islam was small. Islam was busy growing. The Sahaba never knew who the Munafiqeen were. And the Munafiqeen was causing chaos within the realm of the Muslims, within the society, within Medina. They were making salah with Rasulullah. When Rasulullah turns his back, then they were whispering in the ears of the companions. The companions never knew the Munafiqeen. Well, they knew some of them, but they never knew exactly all of the Munafiqeen. The 12 Munafiqeen, the head of the Munafiqeen. Did the Prophet ﷺ expose them? He didn't expose them. He didn't expose them. For reasons that some of it which he explained and some of it which perhaps we won't be able to understand. The point I'm making is that After the Prophet ﷺ passed away, the Khilafah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Uthman, and Sayyidina Ali started already from the Khilafah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. The fitan started. The Rawafid and the initial breakaway and started on the Khilafah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, even though majority voted for Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, and then subsequently Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, but they were khilafat, they were differences. When it came to Sayyidina Ali, towards the end of the Khilafah of Sayyidina Uthman, entering to the Khilafah of Sayyidina Ali, that's basically when things started surfacing quite clearly. And that eventually led to the Battle of Jamal, and the Battle of Siffin, and the Battle of Nahrawan, the Khawarij. And from this you find that people, they use these events to instill hatred within the hearts of people towards certain individuals who were believers. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala at no point in time did he ever disrespect the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. More so Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha in the Battle of Jamal. That's narrated that he never took spoils of war within the Battle of Jamal. And when they criticized him, said, "Oh Ali, why don't you?" So he says, "Who do you think is going to take Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha? In whose share is she going to fall? If we must take spoils, Sayyidina Aisha is going to be part of it. Who's going to take the wife for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?" And because that he refused to take, and he was criticized. In the battle of Siffin between Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala and Sayyidina Muawiyah, they agreed before that there would be sulh, but because there was a group of people within the army of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala and Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, they were fitna spreaders within within the army. They weren't happy that things must go down with a sulh. They wanted a pound of flesh. They wanted to see the spill of blood. And then they started the fighting. They started killing before the news could reach the other party that we've agreed to make sulh. But when Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was asked about it, and says, "What do you say about those people? Even about the Khawarij, what do you say about those people? أكفار are they kuffar?" They said, "لا من الكفر فروا." No, they are very far from kufr. They testify that Allah is one, and they believe in our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they told him, "They're munafiqun, they must be. They must be munafiqun." He said, "ليسوا منافقين. إن المنافقين لا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا." Munafiqeen, one of the traits is that they don't remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala but very little. هؤلاء يذكرون الله كثيرا. They remember Allah abundantly, so they can't be munafiqeen either. So they said, "Yeah, Sayyidina Ali, so what are they?" So he said, "إخواننا بغوا علينا." They are our brothers, but they just rebelled against us. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The very same people were the people that killed him. The very same people were the people that killed him, but how did he interpret these events? إخواننا بغوا علينا. Imagine if we must have this understanding in our life today. They are our brothers. They just rebelled against us, but they are our brothers. Today, we're very quick to put people out of the fold of Islam. Nee, hy is van Osi. Hy is die Osa tariqa nie. Hy is die Osa madhabi. He's not our aqidah. He's not Sayyidina Ali. People that fought him, that wanted to kill him. Ikhwanuna, they are our brothers. Baghaw alayna. They just transgressed against us. And therefore, it is important that the manhaj of the Sada al-Ba'alawi, they don't curse. That's not the manhaj of cursing. It's not the manhaj of slandering. Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, our teacher Sayyid Haib was asked about it, and he said, Sayyidina Muawiyah yakfihi fakhran. It suffices him that he saw the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's a Sahabi. Sayyidina Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the dust that accumulated on the horse of Sayyidina Muawiyah is greater than many believers. The dust that accumulated on the horse of Sayyidina Muawiyah in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of its sharaf, in terms of nobility, he's attached to a companion. So, is Sayyidina Muawiyah a Sahabi? He's a Sahabi. When we speak about him, what do you say? Radiyallahu, Allah is pleased with him. And when our teacher Sayyid Haib, he says, what was والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين تبعهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Allah is pleased with him and they are pleased with Allah. Did Allah say that about me and you? رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. That's what we say. So Sayyidina Muawiyah نترضى عنه. We say رضي الله عنه. We don't get into that. Then the discussion comes. People say, yes, but Sayyidina Muawiyah made his son, appointed his son Yazid. It's a different story. Yazid is a different story. But despite it, the manhaj is not the manhaj of cursing. Who was wrong? There's no doubt in the Ahl Sunnah al Jama'ah that the killer of Sayyidina al-Hussein was wrong. And the one who instructed to kill Sayyidina al-Hussein was wrong. And everyone who had a share in the killing of Sayyidina al-Hussein, even with one word, he was an oppressor. And his ithmi is on the day of Qiyamah, he will carry it. That is misdaqan liqawli Rasul. The Prophet ﷺ said that he will be killed by the tyrants. He will be killed tuqtal madluman. He will be killed wrongfully. Meaning he will be right and whoever killed him was wrong, was the oppressor. And he would be the one who was oppressed. But despite it, we don't curse Yazid. We don't curse Yazid. There's no benefit in cursing. What are you going to benefit in cursing someone? What are you going to benefit? Imagine if Allah Ta'ala was to forgive that person on the day of Qiyamah. So you are safer not to curse. And that's why many times we come to the point of sometimes it's sad that from our own camps, you find people that are cursing. They post videos and they post statements and they curse left, right, and center. Hey, why curse? Make dua for them. Better than cursing, make dua for them. That Allah forgives them for their shortcomings. Make dua for them. Make dua for yourself that Allah don't cause you to fall in that trap of fitna that is such a dark, blind fitna. So Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz sealed it beautifully in his time. When he became the Khalifa, people were speaking about the Sayyidina Ali, and he was the first one that stopped the cursing of Sayyidina Ali on the manabir. Otherwise, Sayyidina Ali used to be cursed every khutbah on the manabir. He's the first one that stopped it from the Amawi Khalifas. And so when they spoke about it in his presence, so he says, this, and he was asked about it, so he says, this is an incident that Allah Ta'ala saved our swords from its blood. So why should we use our tongues to slander people? Allah saved us from that test. It was a difficult test. There was a difficult calamity, difficult time in Islamic history. But Allah saved us from that. Meaning we weren't involved in it. So why use our tongues to slander? So when it comes to that, we don't إذا ذكر أصحابي فأمسكوا the Prophet. When my companions are spoken about, just hold, don't. We say, if it's Sahaba, we say رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Every single one of them. Those who partook in the battle of Jamal, those who partook in the battle of Siffin, those who are on the part of Sayyidina Ali, those who are on the part of Sayyidina Aisha, we know that the haqq was to Sayyidina Ali, and this is la khilafa fi. That the right was to Sayyidina Ali, and whoever opposed Sayyidina Ali was at wrong. But they were all Sahaba. They were all Sahaba, and they were all رضي الله تعالى عنهم ورضوا عنه. وقال رضي الله عنه إنا لم نطلع على شيء مما جرى بين الصحابة إلا لما وصلت الزيدية إلى حضرموت استشرفنا على بعض الأشياء دعت الحاجة إليها وأما التوغل في ذلك والنظر فيما هنالك فإنه لا محالة يشغل القلب ويهوي به في مهاوي الضلال. Al-Imam al-Haddad says, we never really bothered about reading about what happened between Sayyidina Ali and Sayyidina Muawiyah in the different battles. That wasn't. until the Zaydiyya entered Yemen. When the Zaydiyya entered Yemen, Zaydiyya is one of one of the sects in Shia. When they entered Yemen, we started reading to educate ourselves. Other than that, he says, استشرفنا على بعض الأشياء دعت الحاجة إليها. There was a need for us to read certain things so that we are able to respond. But other than that, we didn't pay much attention. وقال سيدنا الإمام أحمد بن حسن العطاس رضي الله عنه. And this is another point, that if you look at the idea and how long they're living now, for hundreds of years, they're living in Yemen. The idea has been living with the Ahlul Sunnah within Yemen for years, many years, for centuries. We've been living there. No problems. How many? We went to, the first time Shaykh, we went to Sana'a. So we went to the masjid for, I think it was for Salat al-Fajr. And we didn't know where the masajid were, or which masajid was a Sunni and which masjid was a Zaidi masjid. We went to the closest masjid we found, and we made our salah, only to realize afterwards that we were actually standing in a masjid, or one of the masajid of the Shia. How did we know, Shaykh? I think there was a board or something on the I think it was a board that said the manner in Adhan or Salat al-Janazah or something like that. But then only afterwards we figured. So and you're living in one town, there's Shias. Here you hear the different adhans, you hear the different ways how they are making adhan. Hayya ala khayr al-amal, hayya ala khayr al-amal. And other ones just hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah. One is saying, yeah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala khayr al-amal, hayya ala khayr al-amal. They're saying hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, hayya. And it's like, they all mixing. There's no mashakil. But they are people that just love to create fitna. We live in harmony. We can live in harmony with Jews, with Christians. The Prophet ﷺ lived with the Christians, with the Jews. He lived with the munafiqeen. Salawat Rabbis in harmony. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Then they broke the covenant, the pact with the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I mean, it's nothing wrong for a Muslim. If we can live with Jews in harmony, why can't we live with other Muslims that differs with us slightly in harmony? ولكن الشيطان doesn't love to see harmony. إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء. It is just shaitan. He just loves. إن الشيطان قد أيس أن يعبد غير الله في جزيرة العرب. فإن يكن فبالتحريش بينكم. Shaitan just loves to instill discord and hatred and animosity and differences amongst people. فقال سيدنا الإمام أحمد بن حسن العطاس إن السلف رضي الله عنهم ينهون عن الاطلاع على ما شجر بين الصحابة خصوصا الأمويين والهاشميين. وبلغنا عن بعضهم أن القارئ إذا بلغ إلى ذكر شيء من ذلك في الكتاب الذي يقرؤونه يقولون له اتركه واقرأه لنفسك. وبلغنا أن الحبيب عبد الله الحداد قال يا ليت صاحب المشرع لم يذكر قصة مقتل الحسين، كل ذلك خوفا من تغير القلوب وميلها إلى غير ما ينبغي واعتقادها غير الحق. ويكفي قول صاحب الزبد وما جرى بين الصحاب نسكت عنه وأجر الاجتهاد نثبت. Imam Ahmad bin Hassan al-Attasi says that what happened between the Sahaba of differences, especially the Amawi and the Hashimis, Hashim is referring to Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu and from the tribe of Banu Hashim, and the Amawi referring to the Amawiyin, starting from Sayyidina Muawiyah down. وبلغنا, he says that we don't read those ikhtilafat. And some says that we've seen that some of the students, when they come and they read the book and they come to the point where they mention those differences, And the teacher tells him, leave this. You can go home and go read it yourself. Continue to the next chapter. And Imam al-Haddadi says, I wish the Sahib al-Mashra', which is al-Mashra' al-Rawiyya, Shaykh al-Imam al-Shilli, he says, I wish he didn't mention the story of the martyrdom of Sayyidina al-Hussein in his book al-Mashra'. Because I fear that by people reading this, their hearts might change and carry hatred towards the opposing party. Look at how they were fearful of entering into those khilafat. What benefit is going to help us? What benefit is going to do if you're going to start, you can say, I'm going to now start cursing Yazid, mathalan. What? How's it going to help you on the day of Qiyamah? وما جرى بين الصحاب صاحب الزبد الرسلاني says وما جرى بين الصحاب نسكت. Whatever happened between the Sahaba, we are silent about it. We don't speak about it. عنه وأجر الاجتهاد نثبته. And for the ijtihad, everyone exercised their own ijtihad, their own independent reasoning. The one party thought that they were right. We thought that we were on haqq, like Sayyidina Ali said, and they think that they are on haqq. We know that we are on haqq. He said, نعلم أننا على الحق وهم يظنون أنهم على حق. We know that we are upon haqq, and they think that they are on haqq. So both of them made ijtihad. And إذا اجتهد المجتهد, if the person makes ijtihad and he's right, فله أجران, he gets 2 ajrs. And if he's wrong, he gets 1 ajr. There's no need for us to delve into that. Allah la ilaha illallah. خلاص نكتفي بهذا إن شاء الله. Time is already late, so let's stop here inshallah. Are there any questions? Any questions? No questions, alhamdulillah. Salim, no questions? Ahmed? الفاتحة. مشاهد الفاتحة لكم. تفضلوا مشايخنا. يا رب آمين. فاتحة بسم الله.